Hello everyone, this is to anyone who's ever doubted their path while doing the work, and I am certainly one of them, and those come from the experiences I've made in the last 2 years in growing my personal business and also just growing the brand Imma. And the other day I wrote this article in reflection. Simply, I just felt like discharging a little bit, and it turned out to be my favorite piece of writing I've ever done. And I've decided to turn it into a video today, just for those who'd rather watch than only listen or read. But if you do, then you can just check the link in the description and you can read the article or simply listen to me read it to you. But today we're going to speak about the most important points of the article and just a little bit of a more intuitive and spoken approach to it. Here we go. So I touched a little bit on the often ignored emotional and personal growth that happens during growing a personal brand. And I just remember that like about 2 years ago, I stumbled across Dan Co, as so many probably of you have online. And he was one of the first people, I believe, to touch on the fact that we all have something special and that if we put enough work into it, that there is a possibility for us to succeed in life at something we actually enjoy. And as random as that may sound to some, to me that was just a revelation in terms of, okay, I can actually try and be me and do the things I enjoy and live off of that, while I've already been doing that kind of my entire life. And it just introduced me into a whole new series of reflection in trying to pursue this kind of freedom that came with many, many learnings and many, many ups and downs that just happen on the road to entrepreneurship or like on the road of entrepreneurship. And whenever you start out a new project, you can get so exhilarated on it and you feel like you know exactly what you want to do and you have like this mental idea. But the moment you start building it, either you notice that things don't necessarily work out the way you imagined them, or straight up you feel that you're scared of even starting it, which is another block people may have, that the immensity of the project is so overwhelming that even the exhilarating idea can't survive the pressure you start putting on yourself because of previous experiences or doubts or fears that you have installed. So you will reach plateau in those kind of directions, noticing that some things are hard for you for a yet undefinable reason that don't seem to be hard for others, which by the way doesn't mean it's not hard for them, but you don't necessarily see it or perceive it that way. Or they've already worked through that limit of theirs and have now reached a point in which they flow with their work. And that is something I've personally experienced in the last 2-3 months or so. And thinking about the fact that it's been it's about 2 years in the making of learning and growing. And obviously there have been growth spurts in between, but this has been the most freeing and the most perspective-giving situation that I've experienced so far. And I just don't necessarily feel 100% clear on where I'm going, but I know that the actions I'm taking are the ones leading me to where I want to go. And I'm just trusting that process. And that is a sentence to be said in honesty is, wow, I'm amazed at the learning curve that this has brought. A really big reason or part of that learning has been how I talk to myself, and how maybe you should reflect on how do you speak to yourself? Like, what do you say to yourself when you start working on something that you want to do, or when you try learning something that you've never done before? And they're freaking cleaning the park this morning like crazy people. Is it gonna come by here? No, he's driving by. Okay. Let's just wait it out. All right. where was I? Yeah, the way you speak to yourself matters. So how do you speak to yourself when you try learning something new? How do you speak to yourself when you're trying to work on something that is important to you, but that is not necessarily advancing the way you'd like it to? And listen to that voice, not because you're supposed to believe it, but because you're supposed to see if it's pulling you down or if it's pushing you up. And most probably it's pulling you down. At least that's the case for most people in the world. And for some abstract reason, we like to be so encouraging with our friends, with family, with other entrepreneurs, and see them making these great leaps in their work and just are amazed at how well they're doing. And we speak so well of them and to them, but we don't speak as nicely to us. And that can already start in shifting from, I don't know how to do this, I'm just gonna stop, to I don't feel like I'm advancing right now, I'm gonna take a break. Or what often blocks people as well is that it's not gonna be as good as they thought it was gonna be. So consider changing the outlook, or consider changing that pressure you put on yourself. And why would you need to be embarrassed? Why do you need to be fearful? If you're only developing something that you really care about, oh my God. If you're only working on something that you care about and that is truly something you want to make, then there is no one and nothing that can say something negative about that, because literally the fact that you are trying is already so much bigger than many people try that will be potentially the ones criticizing. And when they criticize, what they actually see is you making a leap of faith, taking a leap of faith, and advancing at something that you really care for when they maybe haven't even dared to think about that yet. So it's always just them and how they perceive you in that very moment, and that is uncontrollable for you. It's not possible for you to make sure that people perceive you the way you want to be perceived. There is only the possibility of you being exactly who you are in that moment, in that day, and being as honest with yourself as possible, and simply be. And if someone has to criticize something about that when you're not hurting anyone, or literally hurting yourself, then why do they need to even negatively comment about it? And even a positive comment is great, but it is also just their perspective. So don't follow too much into the advice of people telling you like, this is great, like this one I really liked, but this one I didn't like. It's like, okay, but what did you like? What did you enjoy? You're supposed to build this around whatever you're enjoying and whatever you consider good. So feedback is always great, and if you keep creating and nobody really like gives you resonance or finds you or tells you it's in any way good, then maybe you need to redirect and reassess a little bit. But it doesn't mean it's not gonna work. There is too many projects in this world that have been shamed or have been put down in the beginning, and they were told that it was never gonna be an opportunity, and it ended up being the most successful thing ever. So that's not something that should stop you. I want to chain in a little bit with the importance of emotional resonance and instead of reactivity, meaning that the way that you react to anything is the way that you're gonna be managing your energy. People making you angry, people getting you upset, getting guilty about not doing enough or doing too much or being too much, is all thoughts that rob you of precious energy that you can use for good, because those negative emotions spent thinking about however you've been either perceived by someone else or how you believe you've been perceived by someone else is just limiting you and is robbing space up here that could be used to build out the idea that you already have, to work on the things that you really enjoy and to find that exhilaration in those activities. But if you wake up or if you have breakfast and right after start spiraling into like, oh my God, like how is this person gonna see this? Or I feel ashamed of saying something like this. The core question, is it really something that you embody? Is it something that you can, without fear, talk about and, what's the word? Defend if someone were to be criticizing it. Like I've made experiences these last few weeks where people were saying something about something I'd created, and I'm not necessarily taking it as a negative comment anymore. It's just a perception. It's someone noticing your work the way they do, and that doesn't need to diminish the value of what I've created if I am proud of it. Like the article that I've wrote, that is basically the initiation of this video, is such a good example for that, because it's, I think, the first piece of writing that I've sent to like friends as well, because I just felt so deeply comfortable with what I've talked about, and I also felt like it would resonate with them when I have stopped talking much about like this whole project of mentoring with them, because they just didn't understand, or they just didn't necessarily resonate with it at this moment in time. And this specific piece of writing just felt so pure to me that like I've sent it to them, and I've only gotten great resonance of people telling me that it was the thing that they needed to hear in that moment, or that it was a great piece of writing, or that they found really interesting what I did talk about. So it's different points of views from different people in different stages of life with different things going on in their everyday that gave me feedback on something that I had already decided how I feel about. And that doesn't mean that you cannot change your perception on the things that you have, but it could mean that you don't get insecure about it as quickly, when you should always be open to the possibility of being wrong. Like you can always make a mistake. Like we're not perfect people. I'm certain, and I know I have said things that I now don't agree with anymore, but I did at the time. We're just evolving, and every day I am someone different, and literally now I'm someone different than I will be in 2 hours. And that doesn't mean that I'm a different person. That just means that the energy and the environment is affecting on how I'll respond to things, more than I'd like maybe still, but way less than they used to. I am at a point in my life where I'm often very much at peace with everything, and people don't get me upset anymore for being impolite or saying things that I realize they don't mean to be mean. They just say them inconsiderately, maybe hurtfully, and even if they do that, then it's just what you had to say in that moment. That doesn't need to affect me in the way it was either intended or not intended, you know. One could argue that if you just accept everything for what it is and you only act from a position of like creation and letting it all flow, then you will not get to do the things that you really want to do, because who would be pushing you? Who would make you advance? Well, if you act from a position of joy and honesty and like drive towards what you want, then acting from intuition will only attract those things towards you. The fact that you don't have to work through resistance, but simply flow with your ideas and notice, okay, I had much fun doing this, and this came easy, and I found this a bit harder. It just shows you more of the way of the things that you, for you, can do more of. That doesn't mean you never do anything that's hard. Obviously, there's things that are going to be more annoying. We all have to do our taxes, but you figure out how to manage your energy levels and know yourself so well that you understand when to tackle the things that cost you a bit more energy and when to recharge through the things that actually charge your energy. And presence has been such a big improvement on that for me. That is a whole other chapter that I think I should be talking about in another video. But presence, guys, if I can recommend you one book, it's The Power of Now. Personally has unlocked things for me that I didn't think it could, because I did read it about 2 years ago, and I keep saying it like slightly cracked open doors for me. And I just recently listened to the whole audiobook again in the span of like a week, and it just like slammed doors so wide open and incarnated a kind of peace in me that I didn't have before, but it already was there. So that's my point to this whole video and this whole like initiation, which still feels a bit weird and a bit chaotic, but it's about acting from inner purpose. And those are words that always sound way too spiritual for what I'm wanting to defend, but hey, that's what it is. It's being here, it's doing what you want, and it's understanding how you can get to do the things that you want and taking those steps. And just imagining and thinking about them won't get you closer to them. There is always an elaboration time, there is always an ideation time, and maybe a development time, but you have to act. You have to act on the ideas, because you're going to notice that some of the things either don't resonate with you as much once you create them, or it never resonates with your audience either. And you want to find the people that resonate with what you're talking about, but at the same time, if you do find people that resonate what you're talking about, then why not understand what they're seeking as well, and being able to help them with something that is also part of you and that they're actively asking for. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm wanting to say that I have erased some words from my vocabulary, and this is that I choose to believe that there is no trauma, there is only experiences. There is no bad experiences, there's only lessons. And that is easy for someone to say that has had no deep, impactful experiences in a negative sense, I understand. But I choose to believe that everything happens as it does, and there is no way to change any of it. So we need to find a way to accept it all as it is and grow forward from the position that we're at. Because if we just stay where we are, being miserable about what happened to us or what we think we can never reach, then that is us putting limitations on ourselves. Something happened to us that doesn't need to define our entire life. That's it. I hope to catch you soon again, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the little tree atmosphere, because it is 40 freaking degrees in Madrid right now, and in my apartment I was literally melting. So I'm heading to the library now, and I felt like recording this really quickly before. That's it. Catch you soon. Bye.